If you've ever wondered how someone can be so sure and so wrong at the same time, buckle up, because the next few minutes will either restore your faith in karma or permanently destroy your faith in common sense. Let's begin. Moment 1. A man purchases a lottery ticket, wins a modest $200, and immediately files a complaint with the lottery commission because, and I quote, he expected more based on the excitement of the machine. The machine beeped. It lit up. It played a little song. He interpreted all of that as a promise of life-changing wealth, not as a notification that he'd won the price of a grocery run. The Lottery Commission, very professionally, explained that the machine's enthusiasm is not contractually binding. He disputed this in writing. Moment 2. A woman orders a birthday cake from a bakery with the instruction, make it look professional. The bakery makes a professionally decorated, tiered, fondant cake. She leaves a 1-star review because it looked too perfect and didn't have the homemade charm she wanted. She wanted professional. She received professional. She then wanted homemade. She did not want to pay homemade prices, however. The bakery's response was a masterclass in corporate restraint. Moment 3. A man books the cheapest available seat on a budget airline, the one with no recline, no window, located directly next to the lavatory, and then writes a furious complaint that his flight experience felt budget. He selected every budget option available to him, optimized aggressively for price at every single checkout screen, and then expressed genuine shock that the result felt economical. The airline refunded him nothing. The airline offered him nothing. The airline, very correctly, did nothing. Moment 4. A person signs up for a free trial of a streaming service, uses it for the full 30 days, cancels on day 31, and then disputes the one charge that appeared on their account because they didn't think the free trial would end. The free trial was 30 days. It said 30 days. In the confirmation email, in the welcome banner, on the cancellation screen, 30 days, and somehow this still landed in a dispute center as a billing error. Moment 5. A gym member complains that the gym is always too crowded to use properly, specifically in January, specifically at 6 in the morning, specifically when he goes every single day and has done so for years. He knows the crowd is coming. He has watched it arrive annually. He has complained about it annually. He has never once adjusted his schedule. This is not a complaint. This is a tradition. Moment 6. Someone buys a houseplant labeled low maintenance and kills it within 2 weeks by watering it daily, then leaves a review saying the plant was falsely advertised. Low maintenance does not mean no consequence. Low maintenance means the plant was designed to survive neglect, not to survive enthusiasm applied at industrial volume. You overloved it, fatally, and then you reviewed it. Moment 7. A hotel guest checks into a room she booked as a standard room, city view, and complains that the city view is, in fact, a view of the city, specifically a parking garage, some traffic, and a distant Marriott. She wanted a cinematic skyline. She booked standard. The hotel, perhaps generously, pointed out that the city is the city regardless of which part of it you're looking at. She asked for a refund. She did not receive one. The city, unreachably, continued to exist in all directions. Moment 8. A man enters a furniture store, selects a sofa from the floor display, pays the display price, and then returns 2 weeks later furious because the sofa he received at home looked different from the one in the store. It was the same sofa, under different lighting, in a different room, with different walls. He wanted the store's lighting included in the delivery. This, I want you to understand, was communicated as a reasonable expectation. Moment 9. Someone submits a job application with 3 spelling errors in their name, their own name, and does not receive a callback. They post online to say the job market is broken and unfair. Now, to be clear, the job market does have its issues. But this particular data point is doing very specific work that is entirely unrelated to systemic hiring problems. Your name, 3 errors, in your name. Moment 10. A restaurant customer orders a steak, well done with no pink, and then sends it back because it's too dry. The chef, who has seen everything and feels nothing, prepares it again. Well done, no pink. It comes back dry. She sends it back again. This happens 4 times before someone gently explains that well done steak is structurally dry steak. These are not 2 separate preferences. They are the same preference expressed in sequence. It somehow gets worse from here. Moment 11. A man calls a tech support line for a TV brand to complain that his internet is slow. Not the TV, the internet. He does not have internet service through this company. He does not own a router through this company. He just liked the TV and assumed that implied a broader service relationship. The support agent, a saint, spent 40 minutes on this call. 40 minutes. We should name something after her. Moment 12. Someone buys a self-help book, reads the summary on the back, does not read the book, changes nothing about their life, and leaves a 2-star review saying it didn't work. The book did not have the opportunity to work. The book sat on a nightstand accumulating ambient confidence while the reader assumed proximity would be sufficient. Self-help is in the title. The help part requires participation. Be honest. Have you ever met this person? Or possibly been this person? Moment 13. A man purchases a drone, flies it immediately without reading the instructions, crashes it within 90 seconds into his own car, and attempts to return it as defective. The drone was not defective. The drone was airborne for 90 seconds and in that time encountered a stationary vehicle that had been parked there all morning. The vehicle was not moving. The drone, guided entirely by confidence and zero instruction, made a decision. That decision had consequences. Moment 14. A woman signs up for a pottery class advertised as for beginners and walks out after the first session because her vase didn't turn out right. It was her first session of pottery, which humans spend years mastering. The class was for beginners precisely because beginners are expected to produce imperfect vases, which is the entire pedagogical foundation of teaching beginners anything. She rated the class 2 stars and described the instructor as unhelpful. The instructor was teaching a beginner who expected expert results. The instructor was doing exactly what was needed. Moment 15. A person complains to a national park's visitor center that the hiking trail was too outdoorsy. This is a direct quote. The trail had rocks, it had uneven terrain, it had nature which, in a national park that is a protected wilderness area, was in fairly abundant supply. She wanted a scenic walk with the aesthetic of nature and the infrastructure of a shopping mall. The park, unrepentantly, contained neither a smoothie bar nor level pavement, and we're still only in the middle of the list. Moment 16. A man buys concert tickets in the very back row of the upper tier, the cheapest available, and complains that he couldn't see the performer clearly. He then disputes the charge. The performer was there. The performer performed. The performance occurred at scale, at volume, in a venue that holds 20,000 people, with lights and production design visible from every seat including his. He could not see the performer's facial expressions, which, from row ZZ of the upper tier, is correct. Physics delivered exactly what he paid for. Moment 17. Someone calls a bakery to complain that the croissant they bought was too flaky. A croissant. Too flaky. This is not a manufacturing defect. This is not an oversight. Flakiness is the structural goal of a croissant. It is the entire ambition of the laminated dough process. The baker spent 72 hours creating something that would shatter correctly, and someone called to complain about the shattering. I'd like to believe this is a joke. The bakery's phone records suggest otherwise. Moment 18. A man hires a photographer for his wedding, agrees to a package that includes 50 edited photos, receives exactly 50 beautifully edited photos, and disputes the bill because he wanted more. He signed a contract. The contract said 50, he received 50. He had simply assumed that 50 in a contract meant whatever he decided he wanted later. Contract literacy, it turns out, is not evenly distributed. Moment 19. Someone submits a complaint to a library, a public library funded by taxes free to use, because they were asked to return a book that was 14 months overdue. They had kept this book for 14 months. Someone else had requested it. The library, serving its actual function as a shared community resource, asked for it back. This was characterized online as an overstep. The book was about personal responsibility. I could not invent a better detail than that. Moment 20. A woman places an online order for overnight shipping, pays the fee, and the package arrives the next day. She calls to complain that it took too long. It arrived the next day. That is overnight shipping. That is what overnight means. She had perhaps believed overnight shipping meant immediate teleportation. The package traveled hundreds of miles through logistics network in under 24 hours and she is currently on hold to report this as a failure. Moment 21. A man visits a dentist, declines every recommended treatment for 3 consecutive years, and then returns furious that his dental health has declined. The dentist recommended. He declined. This happened 3 times. Each time, the dentist documented the recommendation. Each time he exercised his right to decline. And now, 3 years later, he would like someone to explain to him why his teeth have gotten worse. The dentist explained he did not enjoy the explanation. Moment 22. Someone purchases a mystery box, an explicitly legally contractually defined mystery box, and leaves a review saying they were disappointed by the contents. A mystery box. A box. That contains a mystery. The mystery is the product. The disappointment is the risk. If you wanted to know what was in it, you could have bought a non-mystery product, a category of merchandise that is extremely well represented in the global economy. Would you like to explain this to them, or should we move on? Moment 23. A person submits a complaint to a weather app because it rained on their outdoor wedding day and the forecast had said, partly cloudy. The app had said partly cloudy. It rained. This, to be clear, is not a billing dispute, not a service failure, and not a legal matter. It is weather. Weather is probabilistic. The app is a forecast, not a warranty. She has filed a complaint. She is awaiting resolution. The sky has not responded. Moment 24. A man enters a casino, loses the maximum he budgeted, wins it back on the final hand, keeps playing, loses it all again, and submits a formal complaint to the casino that the atmosphere encouraged him to continue gambling. This is a casino. The atmosphere is designed to encourage continued gambling. This is disclosed. This is visible. This is the product. He is now complaining that a casino felt like a casino. The casino, to its credit, sent him the problem gambling helpline, which was probably the most useful thing that happened to anyone in this story. Moment 25. Now we enter a different category entirely. A woman purchases a first-class airline ticket, boards the plane, and complains to the flight attendant that another passenger in first class is too old to be sitting up here. Not disruptive. Not loud, not inconvenient, simply too old in her estimation for the premium cabin. The flight attendant explained calmly and correctly that ticket price is the only criterion for first-class seating, regardless of age, appearance, or the personal aesthetic preferences of adjacent passengers. She asked to be moved. The flight was full. She was not moved. Moment 26. A man submits a one-star review of a hospital's emergency room because the wait was too long. He had arrived with a non-emergency, was tray-edged accordingly, and was asked to wait while actual emergencies were handled. He describes this in his review as terrible service and clear mismanagement. The emergency room, which simultaneously saved someone's life while he waited, has a 412-word response to this review that I would recommend reading in its entirety if you ever need to restore your faith in institutional composure. Moment 27. Someone contacts a national zoo to complain that the animals didn't perform during their visit. The zoo houses living animals. Living animals do not have schedules. Living animals rest, eat, and move according to biological rhythms that are entirely indifferent to admission prices and visit windows. She paid to see animals in a habitat. She saw animals in a habitat. The animals chose, autonomously, to be in the back of the habitat. This was apparently a breach of an implied entertainment contract. The zoo magnificently did not agree. Moment 28. A man sues a sandwich shop, takes legal action, incurs legal fees, files paperwork because the sandwich he ordered contained lettuce despite him saying, "No lettuce." The sandwich had lettuce. He is not wrong that this is an error. The error is real. The error deserved to be corrected. The error was worth at maximum a replacement sandwich or a partial refund, both of which were offered. He rejected both. He chose court. He spent more money on legal fees than the sandwich cost by a factor of several hundred. He did not win. The lettuce, unavailable for comment, has moved on. Moment 29. And finally, the one that makes everything else seem almost quaint. A person, an adult credentialed, employed person, calls their country's national emergency line to report that their neighbor's car is a slightly different shade of white than it used to be. Not an emergency. Not threatening. Not illegal. A neighbor had, at some point, repainted or replaced their vehicle. The color had shifted from bright white to an off-white. This was considered, by an adult human being with access to a phone and the correct emergency number, to be a matter of national concern. Operators were busy elsewhere, as they should have been. So here we are, 29 moments deep, and the common thread running through every single one of them is not stupidity. It's something far more interesting than that. It's the gap between expectation and reality that no one bothered to close. It's the belief, deeply held and aggressively defended, that the world should organize itself around personal preference regardless of what was agreed, what was possible, or what the laws of physics permit. And the truly remarkable thing is that in almost every one of these cases, someone, a flight attendant, a baker, a park ranger, a very tired support agent, had to stay calm while receiving the complaint at full volume. Those are the real heroes of this video. Which of these 29 moments do you think is the worst? Leave a number in the comments, and if you've witnessed something that belongs on this list, I genuinely want to know, because clearly we're not done. If this gave you any comfort about your own decision, making hit like, you've earned it. And if you subscribe, I promise to keep cataloging human overconfidence so you never have to experience it firsthand.